Hello friends, this video is about short summary of law of diminishing returns or principle of variable proportions, which is one of the important economic principle of farm management and also one of the important topic of our course farm management and production economics. So, law of diminishing returns is also called as principle of variable proportions because the proportion among factors of production varies as one of the productive resource is changed, keeping the other factors of production constant. And this particular principle of variable proportions is also called as law of returns because this particular law has three phases or stages such as law of diminishing returns, law of constant returns and law of increasing returns. This law describes the relationship between output and variable input with other inputs are held constant, or we can say it explains the input output relationship known as factor product relationship, and this particular principle guides the producer in making one of the operational management decision, that is how much to produce. And this law is also helps in determination of optimum level of input to use and optimum level of output to produce. And this law, as I said earlier, this law has three phases or stages in that: first, law of diminishing returns, law of constant returns and law of increasing returns. This means this particular law is concerned with factor product relationship or input output relationship. Let me explain statement of this law. First statement: as additional units of variable input are used in combination with one or more fixed inputs, the marginal physical product will eventually begins to decline. We can also state this particular principle in another way, like if increasing amounts of one input are added to a production process while all other inputs are held constant, the amount of output added per unit of variable input will eventually starts decreasing. This means, or this indicates, if we increase one variable input in any particular production activity, then the output or the production to be received from that additional use or additional increase of that particular input, first, or we can say there are three stages of returns in that. First, output added per unit of use of this particular input is increases, then output added per unit of variable input becomes constant, and ultimately the output added per unit of variable input, or we can say per output added per unit of variable input increase ultimately starts decreasing. It means if we increase or if we use additionally any variable input in a particular production activity and other inputs are held constant, then output to be received from that particular additional use of that particular input eventually or ultimately starts decreasing after a certain point or after a certain level, right? As I stated earlier, this particular principle has three stages: increasing returns, constant returns, and decreasing returns. And if we analyze one variable input and output of any particular production activity, then we can get these three phases. First, we can get increasing returns in that particular production activity. Then we can get constant returns in that particular production activity. And finally and ultimately, we can get the diminishing returns in that particular production activity. So let me explain one example, hypothetical example. Suppose there is a farmer who cultivates a small farm, and each dose of capital and labor cost him rupees 500, and he applies some capital and labor to his farm in certain fixed quantities, which we call doses. And I have already said that each dose of capital and labor costs him rupees 500. Here it is the applied dose: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and here it is the corresponding total returns in quintals, and here it is the corresponding marginal returns in quintals. From this particular example or from this particular table, it appears that as more dose are applied, the marginal returns or the additional returns received goes on decreasing from 12 to -5. This is our law of diminishing returns. As we increase the one variable input in a particular production activity and other inputs are held constant, then marginal returns or the additional output or the additional returns received from that particular additional use or the additional increase in that particular input eventually starts decreasing or the declining. Therefore, it is important to optimize the resources in a particular production activity, and this is the importance of that this particular principle, that farmer should optimize his resources in order to get maximum returns from the particular production activity. So friends, this is all about short summary of law of diminishing returns. Thank you.